That scent, you know the one, it's impossible to mistake. It's that bright, sharp, sweet tang of citrus that, for so many of us, just it signals the dead of winter, or maybe a holiday gift, or just the start of a perfect day.
It's the orange.
It's the orange.
Right.
That simple, perfect, spherical shot of sunshine. It symbolizes, vitality, energy, warmth.
Right.
We treat the orange like an old, reliable, and fundamentally simple friend. It's always there, perfectly round, perfectly well.
Perfectly orange.
Exactly.
And that familiarity, that sense of unwavering reliability, that's the great deception.
Okay.
We think we know the orange because it's so ubiquitous, so common in our lives, but its history is anything but simple. It's a story of mistaken identity, geopolitical strategy, a little agricultural espionage,
Wow.
and a surprising degree of, let's say, botanical trickery.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've gathered a, formidable stack of research, historical documents, botanical analysis, all diving deep into the orange, the fruit that literally defined a color. Our mission today is a deep dive. We're going to peel back the layers on this deceptively familiar food and show you how it single-handedly changed world history.
And our goal is pretty clear: to expose the untold 1,000-year-long story of this fruit. Is a natural hybrid that was critical to global exploration. It was a strategic asset that fought one of the deadliest scourges in maritime history.
Right.
And it's a modern industrial commodity that is literally changing its own appearance just to conform to what we, the consumers, demand.
So we're charting a journey from, the ancient Sino-Indian borderlands
All the way across tempestuous seas powered by Portuguese ambition.
to modern commodity trading floors.
Okay.
Get ready, because the orange is about to reveal itself as a true genius of disguise.
And we have to start with that foundational misconception. This fruit is a globe-trotting immigrant, and its true home is emphatically not the West.
Not at all.
Precisely. If you ask anyone, where do oranges come from, they'll say Florida, maybe Spain or Brazil.
Sure, all the sunny places.
Someplace sunny and warm, exactly. But that geography, that only represents its colonial adoption. Its birthplace is ancient, remote, and really unexpected.
So if we really want to understand the Citrus sinensis, the modern sweet orange we have today,
Yeah.
we have to look at its DNA, right?
You have to.
This isn't just a fruit that evolved on its own.
Right.
It's fundamentally a botanical masterpiece, a combination of two pre-existing genetic lines.
It's a classic example of a natural hybrid, and that distinction is absolutely critical.
Why is this so critical?
Well, unlike many fruits that just arose as a single species in one place, the sweet orange is the result of a very successful and very ancient natural cross-pollination. This is plant genetics driven by, bees and thyme, not a human laboratory.
Bees and thyme, I like that. So who are the parents of this botanical success story?
Okay, so we're looking at a cross between a pomelo and a mandarin.
Okay, Pomelo and Mandarin, let's break those down.
Think about those two parents. The pomelo, Citrus maxima, it's generally large, a bit pear-shaped, really thick-skinned, and sometimes that has a little bitterness or tartness.
Right, I've had those, they're huge.
They're huge, and that provided the basic structure and size for the orange.
And then you pair that structural strength with the flavor specialist, the Mandarin.
Exactly. The mandarin, Citrus reticulata, it's smaller, much less acidic, intensely sweet, and it's known for that uniquely loose, thin, easy-to-peel skin.
The one you give to kids.
The one everyone loves. So you mix those two genetic lines, the pomelo's size and resilience with the mandarin's sweetness and approachable texture, and you get the perfect balance that is the sweet orange.
What's so fascinating here is that this cross-pollination event wasn't, engineered. It happened thousands of years ago in a very specific, unique geographical region.
And the consensus, built on genetic mapping and historical botany, places the origin squarely in the borderlands between southern China and northeastern India.
So that's the true birthplace.
That's it. That region, with its mix of subtropical climate, diverse geography, and the existing populations of both parent species, it provided the exact conditions for this hybrid to spontaneously occur and thrive. It's a long, long way from the groves of Valencia or California.
So when you hold an orange, you're really holding a piece of deep East Asian history, not a European or American one.
Exactly.
That completely recontextualizes my supermarket trips.
And that historical context is crucial because for centuries, when we talk about citrus in Europe, we're talking about a fruit that had a long, slow introduction. And it wasn't the sweet orange.
Right, it was something else entirely.
For a very long time, the only citrus known and cultivated in the West was the bitter orange Citrus aurantium. Sometimes it's called the Seville orange or the sour orange.
I sometimes hear people refer to that as the predecessor, but it wasn't the sweet orange's ancestor, was it? It was just an earlier arrival.
Yeah. Exactly, an earlier immigrant. It was known, but its culinary use was extremely limited compared to what we know today. It arrived much earlier, possibly carried along trade routes established by Islamic empires, and was known in Europe long before the age of exploration.
Okay, so what were they even using it for, if not eating it out of hand like we do?
The bitter orange was prized for its aromatic peel, not its pulp.
Okay.
Its high acidity and intense bitterness made it ideal for preserves, like marmalade, which needs that bitterness to balance out all the sugar. Or it was used as a source of essential oils for perfumery and traditional medicine.
So mostly ornamental and medicinal, a completely different commodity.
Completely different, not the sweet, easy-eating fruit we crave now.
So when did the game changer, the sweet orange, finally arrive in Europe?
It was a strikingly late arrival. Historical records point to the sweet orange showing up in southern Europe, probably via Moorish Spain or later, more directly with maritime trade, sometime around the mid-15th century.
The 15th century. That timing seems incredibly significant.
Oh, it is. It's often overlooked, but it's so important.
Why? What was happening then?
Because the sweet orange arrives on the continent right as the burgeoning European powers, particularly Portugal and Spain, were shifting their focus from local trade to large-scale, deep-sea global exploration.
So they had centuries of this bitter orange.
Right.
And then the sweet, juicy hybrid from Asia shows up just as Europe is gearing up to circumnavigate the globe and build these massive colonies.
Exactly. The timing couldn't have been more perfect or more strategic.
So the sweet orange barely had time to put down roots in the Mediterranean before it was put right back on a ship.
That really highlights the Western delay. They were late to the party with the best fruit, but once they had it, they immediately understood its strategic value.
They absolutely did. That shift didn't just alter European agriculture, it equipped them with a crucial tool for their imperial ambitions.
It really did.
So the sweet orange arrives in Europe, 15th century, and almost immediately becomes maybe the most strategically important plant commodity in global transport. And we have to talk about the vector of its spread. The name that looms largest is Portugal.
The Portuguese were the undisputed masters of the high seas and long-distance trade during this period, there's no question. They systematically established maritime routes down the coast of Africa, around the Cape of Good Hope, and into the lucrative markets of India and Southeast Asia.
And crucially, they weren't just bringing goods back to Europe.
No, that's the key. They were moving viable seeds, young saplings, and agricultural knowledge out to establish new colonies and refueling stations.
So it wasn't just exploration, it was, in a way, agricultural warfare. They were weaponizing botany to secure their supply lines.
That's a great way of putting it. The source material is very clear that the Portuguese didn't just carry oranges for personal refreshment. They planted them as a key foundational commodity along their trade routes.
It makes sense. I mean, think about the immense logistical challenges of maintaining an empire stretched across continents.
A successful outpost needed to be self-sustaining. You couldn't be constantly dependent on a 6-month resupply voyage from Lisbon.
Right.
So planting crops that would thrive in these diverse climates mature quickly and provide both sustenance and value. It was a strategic necessity. The orange, adaptable and freely nutritious, fit that role perfectly.
And this expansion was so effective, so pervasive, that it literally changed how people in vast regions of the world referred to the fruit. That linguistic imprint is just. It's one of the most stunning historical artifacts of this trade.
It shows the sheer, overwhelming scale of the Portuguese distribution. If a fruit arrives in a new region and completely supplants any similar fruit that was there before, it gets named after its carrier.
So in many languages, I think Greek, Turkish, Romanian.
Even variations in Arabic dialects, yes.
Yeah.
The word for the sweet orange is a direct derivative of Portugal.
So when a Greek speaker says portocalli, they're literally saying the Portuguese fruit.
Exactly. It's a living monument to maritime history. For vast swaths of the globe, the sweet orange was defined by its Portuguese origin. It underscores who was responsible for bringing that particular fruit, that particular sweetness, to their shores.
But as important as sweetness and commerce were, the most critical cargo the orange carried wasn't flavor or sugar. It was invisible, and it was world-changing.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C. And this leads us to the dark heart of maritime history. Scurvy.
For centuries, scurvy was the unseen, terrifying killer on every long voyage. It was a debilitating, painful, and ultimately fatal disease caused by a simple deficiency of ascorbic acid. vitamin C.
And the human body can't make it. So if you're a sailor living for months on end on salted beef, hardtack biscuits, dried peas, the standard naval diet.
You are guaranteed to develop scurvy. You might survive a storm, but you wouldn't survive the nutritional deficiency.
The statistics are horrifying. I was reading that scurvy killed more sailors and explorers than all storms, shipwrecks, and battles combined during the Age of Sail.
It's true. Entire expeditions were crippled. They ended not by foreign armies, but by spongy gums, internal hemorrhaging, and just creeping despair.
The term limey, right?
Right.
But the Spanish and Portuguese, operating mostly in tropical zones, they quickly realized that the orange tree was just as effective and maybe even more valuable in their territories.
That's a crucial point of nuance. Limes and lemons are packed with vitamin C, but the orange had specific advantages for long-term colonial maintenance.
Okay, like what? Why focus on the orange if limes work too?
Well, for one, oranges are often hardier and easier to cultivate rapidly in diverse climates than lemons, especially the sweet varieties. But second, and this is the big one, the sweet orange was also a highly desirable cash crop in its own right.
Ah, so it paid dual dividends.
Exactly. Colonial investment in orange groves provided strategic medicine for the Navy and an exportable commodity for the Treasury.
So it wasn't just medicine. It was economic viability blended with military strategy. The orange tree was an economic engine that also happened to be the cure for the Navy's greatest threat.
You've got it. The ability of the orange tree to be planted in new colonies, from the Azores to Goa to Bahia, to grow quickly and to yield fruit that could survive long sea voyages, made it a critical strategic asset for every expanding navy. They weren't just planting food.
They were planting medicine, longevity, and the foundation for projecting enduring global power.
When you look at someone like Captain James Cook in the 18th century, he's famous for nearly eradicating scurvy on his voyages.
Right, but he didn't rely only on citrus.
No, his prevention was a whole system. Mandatory fresh provisions, discipline but reliable access to fruit, including oranges when possible, was key to that system. His success just underscored the principal need for vitamin C.
So every major naval power that successfully maintained long-distance routes, they had to master the supply chain of these anti-scorbutics.
They had to. And the orange, dispersed globally by the Portuguese trade machine, provided the infrastructure for that mastery.
It's a perfect case study in how botany directly influenced geopolitics. Without the sweet orange's global dispersal, the ability of European powers to maintain these large, far-flung naval empires would have been severely hampered.
The orange was foundational to the globalized world we inhabit. It provided the necessary biological underpinning for the exploration and conquest of the globe. From a spontaneous cross in China, it became the most important life-saving cargo on the high seas.
Okay, we've established its ancient origins and its historical conquest. Now let's zoom in and look at the fruit itself. Because even internally, the orange holds secrets that the average consumer just routinely overlooks. It's more complex than just peel and pulp.
Indeed. We think of the internal structure in such simple terms. The skin, the fruit, the segments. But let's use the right botanical terms.
Okay.
What we call the slices are actually these specialized structures.
The individual sections we peel apart, those are called arpels.
Carpels, exactly. They are the structural segments containing the pulp, the juice sacs, and often the seeds. They radiate out from the core.
But there's a structure that's often ignored that's surprisingly central to the nutritional story. That white layer.
Ah, the pith. The messy, slightly bitter stuff everyone tries to scrape off their fingers.
Everyone does it.
This white, spongy layer found between the exterior zest, the colored part of the skin, and the juicy carpels is known botanically as the albedo. We instinctively discard it because it tends to be bitter or slightly fibrous.
And here's the profound irony. It perfectly captures this story of nutritional importance versus our preferences for taste. The albedo is actually significantly better for you than the sugary segments we crave.
It's absolutely true. The albedo is packed with soluble fiber, which is great for digestion, but more surprisingly, it often contains a significantly higher concentration of vitamin C than the juicy flesh itself.
That's incredible. So we prioritize sweetness and ease of eating over maximum nutritional intake.
Every time. The fruit that saved countless sailors because of its vitamin C is now being consumed by modern people who actively peel away the highest concentration of that very vitamin just to avoid a little bitterness.
It's a perfect reflection of how modern flavor preferences can completely overrule sound nutritional science in our everyday lives.
But the greatest botanical secret, the one that truly redefines the orange in the consumer mindset, involves its most defining characteristic.
It's color.
Its color.
This is the astonishing genetic betrayal we mentioned earlier. We call it an orange because it is orange.
Yeah.
But you're telling us that in its native habitat and in most purely tropical zones where it thrives, it doesn't actually get that color naturally, even when it's perfectly ripe.
That is the bombshell truth. The sweet orange is not naturally orange in tropical environments where heat is constant.
So where would I see this?
If you travel to commercial groves in regions like Brazil, Colombia, Vietnam, or even specific intensely hot parts of Florida, you will find perfectly ripe, internally sweet, juicy oranges that are still sporting a bright green or mottled green skin.
Wait, how can they be ripe and still be green? Doesn't the color change happen as the fruit ripens? That's what we're all taught.
And this is where the botany gets really specific and fascinating. The green color in the peel is caused by chlorophyll, the pigment responsible for photosynthesis.
Right.
In regions with consistent, intense heat that maintain stable, high temperatures year-round, the natural process that breaks down and degrades that green chlorophyll pigment. It just doesn't occur effectively.
So the fruit reaches peak internal ripeness. Maximum sugar, maximum juice, everything is ready to eat. But externally, the chlorophyll persists, making it look like an underripe lemon or a giant lime.
Exactly. The chlorophyll just hangs on. And this leads to the central realization. The familiar, vivid orange color we demand is not an indicator of ripeness in many places. It's a specific response to temperature stress.
Okay, let's elaborate on that mechanism. What is the precise trigger that causes the chlorophyll to vanish and the carotenoids, the pigments that create the reds and oranges, to finally emerge?
It requires a sharp drop in temperature, specifically sustained exposure to temperatures below about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, a cool snap, or critically for temperate zones, a night frost.
Ah, the frost.
When the fruit experiences this temperature stress, it signals the plant to stop producing chlorophyll and start breaking down what's already there, revealing the underlying carotenoid pigments.
So an orange grown in a place like Spain or California's inland valleys, which have hot summers but distinctly cool or cold autumns and winters, that orange will turn orange naturally.
Because it experiences that necessary temperature drop. That is the natural mechanism.
But an orange grown in equatorial Brazil or coastal Southeast Asia, where temperatures rarely fluctuate that dramatically, it stays green.
It stays green. And this creates a huge disconnect because consumers globally have been trained by decades of marketing to associate the color orange with peak readiness and quality.
So if a green, ripe orange hits the market, we assume it's sour or unripe, even if it's bursting with sugar?
You're not going to buy it.
I'm not going to buy it. So the industrial complex has to step in to meet this aesthetic demand. How is this manipulation carried out?
There are two main industrial interventions. The first, and sometimes necessary one, involves exposing the picked fruit to ethylene gas.
Ethylene gas, okay.
Ethylene is a natural plant hormone that triggers senescence, or aging, and ripening. In this context, it's being used post-harvest, specifically to destroy the green chlorophyll, forcing the color change.
So the gas treatment isn't making the fruit sweeter or riper inside. It's simply changing the aesthetics of the skin to match what I expect to see.
Absolutely. The second intervention, which is much more controversial and geographically specific, involves harmless dyeing.
Wait, dyeing?
Yes.
Yeah.
If the fruit still retains a mottled, patchy green or yellowish color after gassing, some markets, particularly certain U.S. states, permit the use of approved food-safe citrus dyes to achieve a uniform, vibrant orange.
So the fruit we eat can be ripe, gassed to remove the green, and then dyed to achieve the perfect market color.
It's a system that's been completely optimized for marketability. It reinforces this idea that the industry has adapted to satisfy consumer expectations, even if it means manipulating the fruit's appearance far beyond what nature ever intended.
It's a fascinating, complex, ethical, and economic relationship between color, perception, and commerce.
Absolutely.
This manipulation shows just how deep our market association with the color orange runs. We demand it, and the industry provides it, often using technology to simulate a climate stress event. The orange we think of is often the result of sophisticated post-harvest chemistry, not just a perfect day in the grows.
Moving past the core secrets of structure and color, we really need to appreciate the orange family tree as a showcase of genetic diversity. That original Sino-Indian hybrid seed produced progeny that, through random mutation and human selection, have branched out into these incredibly distinct and valuable varieties.
Let's start with the genetic superstar of the market, the navel orange.
Hmm.
It is the dominant commercial variety in the Western Hemisphere, and it's immediately recognizable by that one unique feature.
The navel orange is characterized by that distinctive, tiny secondary twin fruit that's embedded at the blossom end of the bottom. It gives it the appearance of a human belly button, hence the name.
Right.
But what many people don't realize is that this isn't just a structural variation. It's a profound genetic error, a mutation that just proved to be incredibly advantageous for us.
A mutation that created a second tiny orange inside the main fruit. What makes that so important for global commerce?
Two things: exceptional sweetness and, most critically, sterility.
No seeds.
The mutation means the navel orange is triploid. It produces no viable seeds. For the consumer, this is pure convenience. For the grower, it's a guarantee of a perfect, hassle-free product.
And the origin story of this perfect seedless commodity is surprisingly well documented. It's almost romanticized.
It's a remarkable tale. The navel orange was the result of a single, random bud mutation discovered on a single tree in the gardens of a monastery in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, around the 1820s.
One tree.
One tree. A local monk recognized the value of this seedless fruit and propagated it.
So every single navel orange in the entire world, whether it's grown in California, Australia, or South Africa, traces its lineage back to that one single successful genetic fluke found in a Brazilian monastery almost 200 years ago.
Precisely. That specific mutation was recognized for its potential and was successfully transported and introduced to the United States in 1870, specifically to Riverside, California.
And that's what sparked the massive Southern California citrus boom.
It was the spark. And because it produces no seeds, every single navel orange tree must be propagated asexually grafted onto other rootstock. You can't plant a seed.
Wow. It just highlights the power of a single desirable genetic trait to completely dominate a global market, creating this botanical monoculture driven entirely by our desire for convenience.
It's incredible.
Okay, from high convenience, let's shift to high drama. The blood orange. Visually, it couldn't be more different, with that deep crimson interior.
The visual stands out because, unlike other citrus pigments, that crimson color is not based on carotenoids. The blood orange gets its dramatic internal coloration from anthocyanins.
Anthocyanins.
The same class of pigments responsible for the deep reds, blues, and purples you find in berries like raspberries and blueberries.
So it's an entirely different biochemical pathway that has been activated in the fruit. What triggers the production of anthocyanins in oranges, which typically don't produce them?
It's another cold stress response, similar to the regular color change, but it's more intense and it's focused on the interior structure. For the blood orange to develop that deep, desirable coloration, it requires warm days and, crucially, very cold nights during the ripening period.
So a dramatic temperature swing triggers the gene.
Exactly. Its color is tied to specific terroir and climate. You need a unique balance of heat and cold. That explains why specific regions, like Sicily, where the climate allows for that fluctuation, are world-renowned for their blood oranges.
And this biochemical difference, it translates directly into flavor complexity, right?
It does. The blood orange is famously more complex in taste than the reliably sweet navel. People often describe nuanced notes of raspberry, cherry, or strawberry layered into that acidic citrus tang. It's a culinary fruit, favored by chefs and mixologists, precisely because of that dramatic color and unusual flavor profile.
So if the navel orange represents convenience and the blood orange represents culinary complexity, the Mandarin serves as what? The approachable family friend who also happens to be a genetic time capsule.
That's a great way to put it. The Mandarin, or tangerine, is the third great pillar of the orange family tree. Its core characteristics, smaller size, lower acidity, and that loose, easy-to-peel skin make it universally popular, especially for children.
That ease of peeling, what growers call zip skin, that's its defining market advantage.
But genetically, the Mandarin is perhaps the most significant in terms of its origin. When we go back to the sweet orange's parentage, Pomelo and Mandarin, the Mandarin is the closest relative to one of the original Sino-Indian genetic starting materials.
Ah, so it's an enduring representation of the genetic sweetness that the original hybrid inherited.
It is. So when you peel a sweet, easy-to-manage Mandarin, you're getting very close to the DNA of one half of the material that launched the global phenomenon of the sweet orange thousands of years ago.
It brings us full circle. The sweet orange is the successful hybrid, but the Mandarin is the enduring progenitor, the approachable, intensely flavored DNA that provided the foundation for its global conquest. Okay, we've traced the orange from ancient hybrid to naval conqueror and genetic marvel. Its final and perhaps most impactful transformation happened much more recently, after the mid-20th century. This is where the orange transitions from being a simple, fresh fruit to a global industrial behemoth.
And the catalyst was a monumental innovation born out of necessity during the post-World War II era: frozen concentrated orange juice, or FCOJ.
FCOJ. That completely changed the consumption landscape. Before this, fresh juice was a luxury. It required seasonal availability and proximity to the groves.
Right. If you lived in New York in January, your vitamin C options were limited and they were expensive.
And FCOJ solved that massive problem by offering stability and accessibility.
Researchers in Florida developed a method to extract the juice, remove the water through a low-temperature, high-vacuum evaporation process, flash freeze the resulting syrup, and ship it. This made vitamin C accessible, shelf-stable, and affordable year-round, regardless of geography or growing season.
Let's detail that process just a little more, because the abstraction of the fruit is really the key here. You're taking the natural flavor and concentrating it, which makes it logistically efficient.
That efficiency is crucial. By removing about 80% of the water, the concentrate takes up only a fraction of the space and is far cheaper to store and transport globally in these huge barrels.
And it was marketed brilliantly.
As a health necessity, it solidified the orange's role as the quintessential morning beverage, even for people living in climates where an orange tree would never survive. It fundamentally linked the orange to the concept of a healthy start to the day.
This represents the ultimate transformation of the fruit then. The orange moved from being a piece of perishable produce, something you held in your hand, to an infinitely scalable, standardized, and globally traded product.
And that standardization leads directly to its designation as a fungible commodity. This concept is central to understanding the modern orange industry.
Explain that for us. What does it mean for a fruit to be fungible?
It means that every unit of a specific grade of orange juice concentrate is considered interchangeable with any other unit of the same grade, regardless of the precise grove where the oranges were grown.
So a ton of grade A FCOJ from Brazil is economically identical to a ton of grade A FCOJ from Florida.
Exactly. The fruit has been abstracted from its physical, unique origin and transformed into a standardized chemical composition.
And that abstraction is what allows it to enter the global financial markets. People aren't just trading physical barrels, they're trading contracts and futures.
Exactly. FCOJ is one of the world's major soft commodities, traded actively on futures markets in exchanges like ICE Futures US. This is where the botanical reality of the fruit directly interacts with massive global finance.
Give us a detailed example of that interaction. How does a freeze in a Florida grove affect a futures trader in London?
Okay, let's say a severe, unexpected frost. The very temperature drop that makes the oranges turn orange naturally hits the Florida citrus belt in January. This event immediately reduces the projected supply of oranges. Because a contract for FCOJ guarantees delivery of a certain quantity at a certain future price, the sudden reduction in supply causes the price of those futures contracts to spike dramatically, sometimes within minutes.
So the traders are bidding on the weather and the botanical conditions, far removed from the actual physical experience of picking a piece of fruit. The orange is simultaneously a living plant subject to temperature and a non-perishable financial instrument.
That dual existence is why the orange industry is so complex. The need for vast, uninterrupted supply to feed the FCOJ machine drove massive monoculture farming, particularly in Florida and Brazil.
And while that efficiency ensures supply, it also introduces huge environmental risks.
Like vulnerability to pests and diseases that can wipe out cloned populations, which in turn further influences the futures price.
It's a huge leap from a single genetic mutation in a Brazilian monastery to its future being traded in Chicago. The entire industrial process, from gassing for color to concentrating the juice, is designed to make this perishable fruit behave like a stable, reliable asset, masking its biological fragility.
And yet that enduring symbolism of health, sunshine, and vitamin C, has survived all this industrialization. It traveled across oceans, acted as essential medicine, mastered the trick of hiding its true color, and successfully transitioned into a financial commodity whose very name defines an entire color in the English language.
It is, from start to finish, a perfect, enduring, and endlessly adaptable hybrid.
It really is.
What an incredible deep dive. We started with the familiar breakfast fruit and revealed that its genetic core was a hybrid born in the Sino-Indian borderlands.
Then it became a strategic naval weapon, thanks to the Portuguese and their desperate need to fight scurvy.
And it hides its natural green color from the modern consumer through these sophisticated industrial processes.
It's a spectacular example of how something that seems so simple and everyday can be incredibly complex. The orange story is inextricably interwoven with exploration, disease, genetics, and modern financial markets. It's the history of the world in one golden sphere.
Now, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought, a reflection on the genetic journey we explored today. It's a simple question of preference, but it speaks volumes about where the orange has been and where it's going.
The orange family tree is vast, and every member offers a different balance of flavor, effort, and history. So where do you stand on the citrus spectrum now that you know the depth of the family lineage?
Are you the purist who values the ease and reliable sweetness of the mandarin? The fruit that reminds us of the original foundational parent line? The ultimate accessible, low-effort experience?
Or do you lean toward the complex, dramatic, and geographically specific blood orange, the one that requires those precise temperature fluctuations to activate its intense, unique, anthocyanin-driven flavor? Do you favor complexity and terroir over convenience?
It's a choice between historical sweetness and modern drama, between convenience and complexity. Something to mull over the next time you decide what citrus to buy.
Just remember, whether you choose the simple mandarin or the sophisticated blood orange, you are consuming a legacy that changed world navigation, saved countless lives at sea, and continues to be one of the most culturally and financially significant fruits in human history.
We encourage you to keep exploring the world of food history and botany. There are secrets hidden in every bite. Thank you for diving deep with us.